So hi everyone again. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you, Emily Hirsekorn, for speaking. So Emily will be speaking on the topic, the 4 dimensions of yourself, crucial for career confidence. Emily Hirsekorn is a life and leadership coach for lawyers around the world, focusing on career confidence, well-being, and work-life integration. Emily helps emerging attorneys banish imposter syndrome and establish career confidence as they acclimate to legal practice. She also assists unfulfilled mid-career attorneys in deciding whether to stay or go, pursue their next career move, and ultimately find greater joy and fulfillment in work and life. Emily also works with law office management to strengthen leadership and communication skills, promote office collaboration, and enhance work-life integration. Thanks again for speaking today, Emily, and good luck with your presentation.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. Hi, everyone. Thrilled to be here. All right, I'm going to try out the tech and see if I can share my screen. Let's see how this goes. Bear with me just 1 minute here. Let's try to make this large. All right, hopefully I'm sharing what I need to. I think it looks good. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start up and tell you too, we've got this chat box here. I am going to be going through a presentation, so I'll look towards the end at the chat box and do my best if I can during the workshop as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, first of all, this is a workshop. I don't do a lot of presentations, strict presentations. So what I mean by that is I want you to have a pen and paper ready. I want you to be doing things, participating, interacting while we're going through the program today. It's quick, it's speedy, but you are going to walk away with value. So go ahead and have pen and paper handy, or if you can type on your computer, that's fine too. But I will expect full participation today so that you can get as much as possible out of our session. And then I also wanted to say, please check in with me afterwards. You're going to be walking away with some ideas of things to start doing and thinking more about in the future. I would love to know how that's going for you. So touch base with me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and by email through my website. Any of those work, but let's stay in touch. So Alex gave me an introduction. He told you a little bit about who I am. I'm going to clarify that a little bit because people are like, what the heck is a life coach for lawyers? What I've been focusing on recently are these ideas of career clarity. I don't know either what I want to do from the beginning in law or mid-career. I don't know what's next. That's the most common demographic that comes to me. Unfulfilled mid-career lawyer, don't know what to do next and where to start. So career clarity, reducing stress. As we all know, this can be a high pressure, high stakes industry that certainly does put some stress. We end up having a lot of stress at times. So reducing stress is huge. And then ultimately, what's the real goal here? Ultimately, helping folks experience more confidence and joy. And here's the kicker, at both work and home. Okay, so that's why I am a life coach. I'm a whole person coach. So we're working on anything and everything that's getting in your way so that you can live a more joyful life. And of course, advance in your career as well. So for years, I helped lawyers and law students pursue jobs in career development. And I quickly found that I was really most passionate about addressing imposter syndrome. And then what I was talking about earlier, that mid-career crisis of not knowing what's next. And of course, work-life balance. In other words, I realized that I wanted to help lawyers and law students succeed in their careers and their lives beyond just getting a job. I'll share a little bit more about that at the end of the workshop, but that's enough about me. Let's go ahead and dive in. What is leadership? Who are leaders and how do you lead? These are questions I put out there I have a particular group program I'm running a second cohort of now, and I put it out to the group. We do an exercise on defining leadership and also confidence. And time again, people give answers to these questions. They say things like, someone who has supervisory duties, someone who inspires others, who motivates others to get things done, someone who's maybe charismatic in a crowd, a strong communicator. So something that's common amongst all of those examples is that nothing actually relates to the leader themselves in isolation. It's all related to other people and how they're engaging with others. But my question is this: how can you be all of those things that we just identified and lead others if you don't have your own stuff together? So I'm putting this out there. To be an empowering leader, you must first lead yourself. To break it down and make it concrete, because what does that mean? That's a really big concept. And also applicable to lawyers at every stage of their career, I've put together this framework for the 4 most important dimensions of yourself to focus on. Number 1, you must know what you want. You've got to have some sort of vision to keep you going and moving forward. And as human beings, generally speaking, we want to be moving forward. And as lawyers, a lot of us are achievers. I know that's my number 1 strength. I feel like I have to be doing all the time. So we have to have some vision to be moving forward, something to work towards. That's number 1. Another word for that is goals. Number 2, what's getting in your way of moving towards those goals or towards that vision? What obstacles are you facing? Number 3, how to make your success sustainable. So with 1 and 2, you've got a vision, you're getting the obstacles out of the way, you're clearing them, you're moving forward. How do you keep going? How do you do that long term? I think most of us are familiar with the term burnout in the legal industry. So that's where number 3 is really focusing on, avoiding and then addressing burnout. And number 4, this wraps it all together: how to become resourceful, or better yet, unstoppable. So ultimately, if you reach number 4 and you're getting all that in place, I call it self-mastery. With this kind of self-mastery, you can then influence others in a really empowering way as a leader. And that's the kind of leadership we're talking about. So leadership starts with you. Okay, number 1, self-visualization. This is the first dimension we're going to go through. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about each one, and then I'm going to give you some action items, some things I want you to write down and think about as we go. So with self-visualization, you could say goal setting. I don't love the word goals, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the idea here is coming up with longer term objectives, something you're reaching for, dreams. I love that word too. To keep you excited and motivated. You've got to think of the purpose here. Why do we set goals? A lot of people would say to achieve them. We want to achieve them. If that's the sole purpose though, I want to challenge you on that. If that's the sole purpose for setting a goal and you don't achieve it, then it's going to be failure and it's not going to feel good. So I don't want that to be your exclusive measure of success here. So I like to think of another purpose or an alternative purpose for goal setting is to have something you're working towards always. And if you feel like you're doing your best to move towards it, you're making little successes here and there, that feels good. That's progress, that's success all along the way. And if you ultimately reach it or achieve it, that's just icing on the cake. I wanted to put this note in here, the second one here, our arrow. You may not have it all figured out, but you should always be working towards something, because so many folks come to me and say, I don't know what's next. Or even in law school, I don't know what I want to do. And everyone says I have to pick a path and stick to it. It's okay if you don't know for sure. The idea here is coming up with some ideas, coming up with something to get started. Because to move, you've got to have an idea. You've got to have some sort of goal or vision. Okay, so coming up with some sort of ideas and starting to move towards them. Maybe you move towards one and it doesn't work out. You cross it off your list, you learn something. And that's progress. That's helpful to kind of move that aside so that you can make space to pursue other things. Okay, important note on self-visualization. The bigger ideas though here, that's the more practical bit. The bigger ideas here though are identifying who you want to be, and what you want out of life, that's the first step towards what I consider professional and personal alignment and more synergy in your life. Again, the most common demographic that comes to me for support, it's an unfulfilled mid-career lawyer. I want to move on, but I don't know what's next. And usually the idea is they're out of alignment. So the work that they're doing isn't fulfilling. Maybe doesn't align with their values. Maybe doesn't align with how they want to live. Maybe they want to go to Saturday soccer games and not be in the office. That's what we're talking about when I say out of alignment. So having that vision, I want to work more 9 to 5 hours. Or if you're me, sleep in and then work until midnight. I work really late. I have kind of crazy hours right now. But sleeping in is very important to me, and actually for my health as well. And not having to hit that alarm clock and start my day off so stressed out and cranky and rushed. That was not a great way to live. So I set that goal for myself. What do I want? I figured out how to do it. Came up with strategies from there. But first, you've got to have ideas. So let's get to action. Get that pen out or your keys, type it on the keys. Here we go. I want you to write down, number 1, what do you want out of your career? What's most important to you? What energizes you? Any ideas there? And just thoughts. It doesn't have to be complete sentences. You're not turning this in. But just get thinking about what you actually want. Bottom line here. Number 2, what do you want your life to look like? Like I mentioned, maybe this pertains to sleep like it did for me. Maybe you want to spend more time with your family. Maybe you want to start walking your dogs regularly because that brings you joy. And your dog, like mine, is gaining a little bit too much weight, according to the vet. Start thinking about what you want your life to look like. Number 3, what are your top values? And once you've identified those, you can dig into how can you better align your professional life and personal life with the values that you have. And number 4, what are your natural strengths and developed skills? So just to distinguish real quick, strengths might be something like interpersonal skills. I've always been chatty ever since birth, ever since I was a young child. Communication skills might be a strength. A skill, communication skills might be a strength. I know that's a little bit confusing. Develop skills, though, when I say that, I mean more like technical skills. So research and writing, things like that, okay? Career presentation skills. So what are your natural strengths and developed skills? Then we can start thinking, how can you start playing up to those more in your career? Okay, so take a minute to jot those down, and I'm going to move on to dimension number 2. Self-awareness. So now you've got some goals, you've got a vision of what you want. Then I'm going to ask you to think about what's getting in your way. If you've got a 5-year vision, why aren't you there today? You may say expertise, I need more experience, money, maybe you want to take a job that has less hours, maybe there's a financial barrier, those golden handcuffs we're talking a lot about. Okay, I want you to start thinking about these obstacles. And we've got to understand what's holding us back to be able to move forward. We have to address this stuff. If we just try to bypass it, it's going to be maybe short-term success, but it's going to bite us in the end. Okay? It's essential to making conscious choices that are aligned with your values and moving you forward toward your goals. So sometimes we want to just jump to action. I'm just going to do it. I had a client, for example, who was talking about a diet plan. And she's like, I'm just, all of a sudden, I'm just going to start cooking all these meals. I'm going to find a bunch of recipes, and I'm just going to do it. And she didn't do it. And we came back together, and I said, what happened? She said, I really hate cooking. I'm just not going to do it. So that was the self-awareness bit that we were raising together. She was increasing her consciousness about what's really going on with her and her real parameters so that she can make more conscious choices and action plans that make sense to move forward. So she knows now, I'm not going to cook. So we said, okay, what's the alternative plan? What next? now that we know these things. So you've got to be figuring out what's getting in your way. We're talking about external things like time, money, and internal things like self-doubt. That's a big one with my clients. Anxiety, stress, worry. Okay. Once you understand those things and can reflect, maybe work with a coach to help you take on a different perspective so that you can form a different idea of reality of what might be really going on, maybe things are okay and we've been perceiving them differently. Once you do that and you're in that space, then you can make really big decisions in your career and in your life from a conscious place. Okay? So we're always talking about action plans. Those tend to be smaller things, but we're also talking about big, important decisions. And we want to know what's really going on and where we want to go, what's most important, aligned with our values and our strengths to make those decisions. So let's get to action here. Here's what I want you to do, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes because we're doing great on time here. So number one, I want you to write down one external block currently getting in your way. And when I say getting in your way, again, refer back to that vision that you wrote down with self-visualization in step one. Any of that stuff, if it's talking about better alignment with some of your values or how you want to live differently, how you want to work differently, a new job. Okay, so with that in mind, think about what's getting in your way. Maybe it's experience, again, time. These are external blocks. And then I want you to write down one internal block getting in your way. This is where most of my coaching magic happens, the internal stuff. So this is what we're talking about when I say self-doubt. If any of you follow me on LinkedIn, imposter syndrome, this is where it lies. So much stuff here. Interpretations. I think it's super fascinating. It's really based in evolutionary psychology. But when we have a gap in information about some situation, we tend to fill that gap with negative thoughts. We assume the worst. I'm sure you've heard that. And the idea is back when we were hunter-gatherers, the people, think about it, the people who survived were the ones who were constantly worrying about, oh, the falling boulders are over there and the mountain lions are over here, right? They were always in survival mode. But we don't need to live like that anymore. And long-term, it causes stress on the body, and long-term stress, of course, deteriorates physically and mentally. Okay, the inner blocks are really important to address as we're working towards our vision and our goals. So write down at least one internal block. Once you identify these, and you can start to do the work around them, start kind of checking them, getting them in line, choosing new, more productive thoughts, which is not easy to do, but it's possible. Once you're doing that work, then you can start crafting a plan to move forward. And if you have trouble with that, that is exactly what coaches do. I think a lot of times folks are wondering, what the heck do we do? It's really hard to wrap your head around. But this is exactly it. We can help you with this process. So you can contact me. There's other coaches presenting today and sharing with you, plenty of coaches out there, specifically working with lawyers, okay? So let us know if you need more support. Okay, now that you've got your one external block, your one internal block, let's move on to dimension number 3, self-care. When we're talking about self-care, here's the idea. If you have a goal and you're clearing the stuff out of the way that's currently blocking you to get there, you're clearing it, you're moving forward, you may be achieving the goal, amazing. And you might think, I'm done, that's it, 2 dimensions, why are there 4? The problem is, things will still come up, challenges will still come up because that's life. And our mind and our body can handle only so much. So think about it this way. It's just like me. Even if you love what you're doing, for me, my work is totally in alignment. I love what I'm doing. I couldn't love it anymore. There's nothing out there that I need to start thinking, oh, I need to change career paths or change jobs. This is it for me. And when I work too much, too many hours, I experience exhaustion, maybe overwhelm, and at times even burnout. Even though I'm living in alignment, even though I set these goals and I achieve them or I'm working towards them, and all that stuff in the first 2 dimensions makes sense. I've cleared all the crap out of the way to get there. So I get there, but then I'm overdoing it almost, okay? I've got to take care of myself. You've got to take care of yourself to make success sustainable. So you can have initial success from the first 2, and now we're talking about long-term sustainability. Another way to think about this is if you can really do a pretty good job, we'll say pretty good, because I don't believe in perfection, of taking care of yourself on a consistent basis, it can change your way of being, okay? So the first 2 steps are great, they're essential, but this really changes how you're living your life. It becomes who you are and not an occasional diet or a fad, okay? It keeps you focused, and I love this idea of it helping you, 1, be proactive with stamina, momentum, motivation. You can keep going because you had enough sleep last night. You're exercising, that's giving you energy. You're eating healthy, same thing. You're meditating, so you're feeling great. Being proactive, and it helps you respond to difficult times and challenges with resilience, optimism, and gratitude. So things are tough, you recognize it, you're always going to have thoughts and feelings about it, right? But the idea is, instead of, I just can't do anything now because I'm so exhausted, I come up with a plan. I'm optimistic. I know this is going to work out in the end. So I'm going to come up with a plan to pull back and keep going in a strategic way. That's resilience. And also gratitude, where I have an appreciation for everything that I have, everything that's working out, which helps me chill a little bit more. Now, let's talk about the mechanics here. I like to define self-care as wellness, mindful living, and enjoyment. So there's multiple components here. When I ask people what do they think of self-care, when I say that, they always say nutrition, exercise, and sleep. So go beyond that, like physical wellness, and think about mindful living, so meditation, prayer, spirituality, and also fun and enjoyment. That's so important to be well and feel good and energize us. So here's your action here. Take just a minute. Let's write down 2 self-care goals. So real quick, what do you think of? What comes to mind first? I might say, because this is always something on the top of my mind, I'm going to sleep 8 hours a night and socialize with 1 friend every week. This has been really tough this past year, and I can attest to this personally. I've been spending a lot of time working on my business, doing workshops like these, and it's important that I add back in that socialization piece. That's been missing for me. So again, while I'm achieving my professional goals, something feels off a little bit. And it's that self-care piece that can really make everything come together nicely. So take just a minute, write down those goals. I'm going to flip to the last dimension here. Self-advocacy, this one's my favorite, although that's a judgment. I'm working on being non-judgmental, but this one's my favorite. So the idea here is becoming resourceful. When you're resourceful, it helps you get through each of the first 3 dimensions. It's not a linear process necessarily. And it basically makes you unstoppable in achieving your goals and feeling successful. Same idea with resilience. You can get right back on track when you're resourceful, okay? So this way, now you can really commit to and execute your plans for the long term. I like to think about it as fully stepping into your potential. Again, going back to that idea of self-mastery, this is really when you have self-mastery. You aren't sitting back waiting for better work assignments, a raise, invitations. Please invite me to this conference. I might go out and pursue it. You're powerful, recognizing what control you have over your outcomes. We love to sit back and blame others and our environment. But when you're at this point, that stops. You take personal responsibility, you find opportunities and challenges. You make something out of everything, even the challenges. And you're your own biggest advocate. You don't wait around for others, okay? You're prioritizing your well-being, your career, and personal dreams and desires, all of that. So the action here, I want you to focus on, again, becoming resourceful and accountable. That's another important word. So that's a big thing that coaches do for our clients. We hold them accountable. We come up with a little plan, and then the next week I'll talk to you. I'll ask you, how did it go? And if it didn't go, I'm going to ask you why, and we're going to figure that out. So I want you to start holding yourself accountable too. That's important as well. So that's a part of this self-advocacy bit. Okay, let's take a minute to write some things down. Here are some ideas, some topics. 3 people who can support you in your career that you're not currently accessing as much as you could. 3 people who can support you. 1 resource that could support you beyond people. So for example, maybe I'm going to start going to therapy. I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to start that side gig to bring in more income. These are some resources I could start accessing that might move the needle for me and get me closer to living the life that I want. And then 1 boundary that you will start setting in your life. I'm actually presenting, doing a workshop specifically on boundary setting, this framework as applied to boundary setting, which is going to be super fun, next week for a bar association. This is such a common concern for attorneys, whether you're entry-level, mid-career, or senior. At every level, there are different challenges with boundary setting. So that's a big one here. What boundary will you start setting in your life? Okay, folks, we just have a couple more minutes, so I'm going to wrap up. I want you to keep in mind building career clarity, confidence, and work-life balance requires ongoing work. This is not something we can't solve all the world's problems today or overnight, but you can start laying a strong foundation using this framework, okay? And here's the good news. I'm expanding my coaching practice, taking on more one-on-one clients. There are too many people who want support, and so I'm expanding. And soon enough, I will also be taking on more career confidence group members because I run a career confidence group for women lawyers. So I'm currently running a personal challenge. This is the exciting bit for myself to deliver 45 free coaching sessions in 45 days. I'm right on track. If you are interested and book your free session today, I will also send you my complete workbook on the 4 dimensions of yourself for free. Okay, so if you book today, you go to my website, it's hirsekorncoaching.com/scheduling. I'll send you that workbook. Usually I only give it to my members of my paid career confidence group, but I'm willing to do that today. Head over to that website, check me out, let's stay in touch. Regardless, let's stay in touch via social media. Like I said, I would love to know about your progress over time as you're implementing these ideas, what's going on with you, any questions you have. Thank you so much to the conference organizers for bringing me on today. I'm going to stop sharing now and come back in. Let's see. Thank you, Mark. Any other thoughts, any last minute questions as we wrap up? All right, folks. Thanks so much. I'm going to stick around for a little bit. I'm not sure if they'll leave me in here, but happy to chat. Just pop up in the chat and ask away if anything comes up for you. Thanks so much.
Hi, Emily. I just wanted to come back on and say thanks for your presentation. It was really great. I noticed you put your contact information stuff up on the slide. Did you maybe want to pop that in chat as well, just so people are able to save the links?
Absolutely.
Great. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in chat here. Emily said she'll stick around for a few minutes, so that's great. So yeah, feel free to make use of her time and your time as well and put some questions in chat. But just to let everyone else know, so our main stage panel is starting, actually right now it has started. So that's on the main stage there on the left-hand side. Thanks again, Emily, for speaking. It was a great presentation.